I never expected my summer job to turn into whatever this is. It all started when I landed a maintenance gig at this fancy apartment complex downtown. I was between semesters, broke as hell, and desperate to make rent. The job wasn't glamorous, fixing leaky faucets, unclogging drains, repainting walls, but it paid better than slinging coffee or working retail. The building was nice, way nicer than anywhere I could ever afford to live. Modern, glassy, with a rooftop pool and a fitness center that probably cost more than my entire student loan debt. I figured it'd be an easy few months of fixing rich people's problems and keeping my head down. That was until I met him. Ethan, Unit 504. The first time I saw him, I was halfway under a sink in the main lobby bathroom, wrestling with a busted pipe. Someone cleared their throat behind me, and when I slid out to check, there he was, tall, broad-shouldered, with dark hair that was just messy enough to look intentional. He wore joggers and a sleeveless hoodie, earbuds dangling around his neck like he'd just come from the gym. "Hey, sorry," he said, flashing this polite smile. "Do you know who I talked to about getting the washer in my unit checked? It's making this weird knocking noise." I wiped my hands on my rag and stood, trying not to stare too obviously. "Yeah, you can put in a request at the front desk, or just tell me now. I'm the guy who'll end up fixing it anyway." He chuckled. "All right, Ethan, 504. "Got it," I said, scribbling it down on my clipboard. "I'll swing by this afternoon." "Cool." He nodded, glanced at my name tag. "Thanks, Mason." The way he said my name, casual, easy, made my stomach twist in a way I hadn't felt in a long time. I told myself it was nothing. Just a hot guy being polite. But when I showed up at his door later that day, toolbox in hand, it didn't feel like nothing. His place was surprisingly minimal. Clean, modern, with a giant sectional couch and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Ethan let me in, offered me a bottle of water, and hovered nearby as I started working on the washer. "Appreciate this," he said, leaning against the kitchen counter. "I just moved in a few weeks ago, still figuring out where everything is." "No problem. It's kind of my job." He smiled. "Yeah, but you seem, I don't know, less grumpy than the usual maintenance guys." I snorted. "Low bar, man." That made him laugh, this easy, genuine sound that settled somewhere deep in my chest. I focused on the washer, tightening bolts, checking hoses, anything to keep myself from glancing up at him too often. But I could feel his eyes on me. Not in a weird way, just there, watching. The repair didn't take long, 10 minutes tops. But when I stood to pack up, Ethan didn't move from his spot. "Hey," he said, voice a little softer. "You busy after this?" I blinked. Depends. Why?" He shrugged, rubbing the back of his neck. "Just figured. If you're free, I owe you a beer. Or coffee, whatever." My heart kicked into overdrive. I opened my mouth to respond, but nothing came out for a second. "You don't have to," he added quickly. "If that's weird." "No," I blurted. "It's not weird. I mean, yeah, beer sounds good." Ethan grinned. "Cool. There's a bar on the corner. 7? "Yeah, 7. As I left his apartment, toolbox in hand, I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirrored hallway wall, flushed, grinning like an idiot. This wasn't part of the job, and something told me I was in way over my head. I spent the rest of my shift completely distracted. Every time I tightened a screw or patched drywall, my brain would wander right back to Ethan. What exactly did he mean by that beer? Friendly? Flirty? Just being polite to the maintenance guy? By the time 6:45 rolled around, I was back in my tiny studio apartment, standing in front of my mirror, second-guessing every single item of clothing I owned. I finally settled on something simple: a black t-shirt, jeans that actually fit, and clean sneakers. Casual, but decent. The bar was only a block away. One of those trendy spots with Edison bulbs hanging from the ceiling, a chalkboard beer menu, and indie music playing just loud enough to be cool but not annoying. When I walked in, Ethan was already there, sitting at the bar, scrolling through his phone. He wore a dark green hoodie this time, sleeves pushed up, forearms resting on the counter. He glanced up right as I stepped in and grinned. "You made it." "Yeah," I said, sliding onto the stool next to him. "Didn't want to risk upsetting my best customer," he chuckled. "Hey, it's important to stay on the good side of building staff." The bartender came over, and Ethan immediately ordered us 2 beers without even asking. I raised an eyebrow. "Lucky guess," he said with a shrug. "You look like a beer guy." "You're not wrong." The first few minutes were easy. Safer topics. "Where are you from? How long have you lived in the city? What do you do besides fixing broken appliances?" He told me he was a fitness coach, mostly online clients, some in-person training, flexible hours, lots of free time. "But I'm kinda over it," he admitted after a while, taking a sip. "Thinking about switching it up. Maybe go back to school. I don't know." "Yeah?" I asked. "For what?" "Honestly?" He leaned back, studying me. "No clue. Maybe something in design. Architecture. I like building stuff. Watching things come together." It was subtle, but there was something in the way he said that. Like he wasn't just talking about buildings. The conversation drifted. Work. Music. Favorite spots in the city. He was easy to talk to, the kind of guy who made you feel like you'd known him for years, even if it had only been hours. At some point, we shifted from stools to a booth. The space felt smaller, quieter, more private. He sat across from me, one arm stretched along the back of the seat, leaning in just slightly when he talked. His knee brushed mine once. Accidentally, maybe. I didn't move it, neither did he. "Can I ask something?" Ethan said, fiddling with the corner of his coaster. "Yeah, sure." "You seeing anyone?" It hit me like a punch to the chest. My mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. No, not really." Ethan nodded, eyes scanning my face. "Cool." "Cool," I echoed, trying and failing to play it casual. He smirked a little, like he knew exactly what kind of chaos he was stirring up in my head. "You always this nervous?" "Depends," I shot back. "Are you always this forward?" His smirk widened. "Depends." The silence that followed wasn't awkward. If anything, it was heavier. Tension building, stretching between us like something neither of us wanted to name, but both felt. Eventually, the check came. Ethan grabbed it before I could even reach for my wallet. "Hey," I protested. "I can get mine." "Don't worry about it," he said. "Call it a tip." "A tip?" "Yeah," he stood, pulling his hoodie over his head and slinging it over one shoulder. "For fixing my washer." "Right," I laughed, following him out. Very generous. Outside, the air was cooler. The buzz of the bar faded behind us, replaced by the quiet hum of the city at night. We walked for a bit, side by side, not really heading anywhere, just walking. Then he stopped, right in front of the building entrance, hands shoved into his pockets. He turned, looked at me, and for a second it felt like everything else faded out. The traffic, the lights, the world. "Hey," he said, voice low. "Can I be real for a second?" My throat tightened. Yeah, of course." He stepped a little closer. Not much. Just enough that I could feel the heat off his skin, the scent of his cologne. Clean, subtle, something like cedar and citrus. "I wasn't just being friendly earlier," he said. "When I asked you out." I blinked. "Oh." Ethan laughed under his breath. "Yeah, oh." There was a heartbeat's worth of hesitation. Then his hand brushed mine, light, testing, and when I didn't pull away, his fingers laced through mine. "Wanna come up?" he asked, voice barely above a whisper. I should have said no, should have thought about work in the morning, about how complicated this could get. But instead, I nodded. Yeah, I do." The elevator ride was quiet, not awkward, just thick, loaded. Ethan stood beside me, hands still in his pockets, but I could feel the heat radiating off him like we were tethered together by something invisible. Something undeniable. When the doors slid open on the 5th floor, he stepped out first, glancing over his shoulder to make sure I was following. I was. His apartment looked different at night. Dimmer. Warmer. The city lights bled through the windows, casting soft glows across the hardwood floor. He kicked off his shoes by the door, then turned to me, eyes scanning my face like he was searching for something. I stood there like an idiot, frozen halfway between the threshold and the living room, heart hammering against my ribs. Ethan stepped closer, slow, careful, like he was giving me time to back out if I wanted to. I didn't. "You sure?" he asked quietly, voice barely above a whisper. I swallowed, nodded. Yeah. The second the word left my mouth, his hands came up, one settling on the back of my neck, the other curling around my jaw, and then his lips were on mine. It wasn't hesitant or experimental. It was firm, intentional, the kind of kiss that makes your knees forget how to do their job. I grabbed at his hoodie, pulling him closer, fingers tightening in the fabric like if I let go this would all disappear. Ethan made a sound, something low, deep in his throat, and walked me backward until the back of my knees hit the couch. "Sit," he murmured against my mouth. I did, immediately. No thoughts, just instinct. "You have no idea," he said, breath shaky, "how long I've wanted to do that." I blinked. "Wait, what?" His lips twitched. "Yeah, thought about it the first day I saw you in the lobby. Covered in grease, swearing at a busted sink." I let out a stunned laugh. "Dude, I was sweating like a pig." "Hot," he grinned, leaning in to kiss me again. Softer this time. "You've got this whole scruffy, competent, fixes everything vibe." "Fixes everything, huh?" I smirked, catching his hand before it could move away. "Yeah," he said, shifting even closer until I could feel every point of contact between us. "But maybe not everything." I tilted my head. "Oh? What's broken?" "You tell me," Ethan murmured, his eyes dropping to my mouth again. For a second, we just stayed there. Faces inches apart, breaths mingling, tension so thick it was almost suffocating. My fingers tangled in the hem of his hoodie, pulling him even closer until our foreheads touched. "I'm not gonna lie," I said quietly. "This was not how I expected my night to end." Ethan chuckled, breath warm against my skin. "Yeah, me neither." His hand slid a little higher, a little bolder, but I'm not complaining. Neither was I. Ethan pulled back just enough to look me in the eyes, his thumb still lightly brushing the side of my neck. "You want to slow down?" he asked, voice soft but edged with something deeper, something hungry. I shook my head without even thinking. "No, not really." A crooked smile spread across his lips. "Good." "Jesus," I muttered against his mouth. "Yeah?" His lips curved against mine. "That a complaint?" Not even close. Then, like it wasn't even a decision, like it was just gravity. I was tugging his shirt over his head, tossing it aside. He sat back slightly, straddling my thighs now and just, "Let me look." And holy hell, broad chest, lean muscle, just the right amount of definition without looking like he lived at the gym. A tattoo peeked out from under his left pec, some abstract design I couldn't make out fully in the dim light. "You keep staring like that," he said, voice low, teasing. "I'm gonna start thinking you like me or something." I grinned, sliding my hands up his torso. "Yeah, what gave it away?" He laughed again, this warm, genuine sound, and then kissed me so hard it left me breathless. "God, you feel..." Ethan broke off with a curse, squeezing my hips like he was trying to ground himself. "Better than I even imagined." "Wait." I blinked, catching my breath. "You imagined this?" Ethan smirked, biting his lower lip. "For a while, yeah." His eyes dragged over me, hungry and unashamed. "You seriously didn't notice?" "No!" I laughed, half shoving him back against the couch cushion. "Dude, I thought I was imagining all of it. You were just being nice. I figured it was wishful thinking." "Not even close," he said, curling his fingers around the back of my neck again, thumb stroking my skin. "Trust me, I wanted this. For a second, we just stared at each other, like we were both realizing at the same time that this wasn't just flirting. This wasn't just tension finally snapping. This was something real. But neither of us was ready to say that out loud. Not yet. Instead, Ethan leaned in again, slow this time, softer. Less rushed, but somehow even more intense. His hands roamed down my back, over my sides, fingertips leaving goosebumps in their wake. I tangled my fingers in his hair, soft, messier now from where I'd been tugging, and pulled him back down to me, not willing to let him go for even a second. The city outside could have burned down, and I wouldn't have noticed. All that mattered was him, and somehow I had a feeling this was only the beginning. At some point, the couch stopped being enough. Ethan pulled back, panting slightly, his thumb swiping across my bottom lip like he couldn't help himself. "Bed," he murmured. "Yeah." I nodded, probably too fast. "Yeah, definitely." He stood, grabbed my hand without waiting, and tugged me toward the bedroom like it was the most obvious thing in the world. His fingers laced with mine, warm and solid, and the simple fact that he didn't let go, didn't hesitate, made my chest twist in ways I wasn't prepared for. The bedroom was simple. Clean lines, big windows, a massive bed with rumpled sheets like he hadn't bothered making it all week. Ethan flicked on the small lamp on the nightstand, casting everything in this soft, golden glow. "You sure?" he asked again, voice lower now, rougher. "Yeah," I swallowed. "I'm sure." I barely had time to breathe before he kissed me again, deep, slow, like he had all the time in the world. It wasn't rushed now. It wasn't frantic. It was careful, intentional. His fingers moved slowly, exploring, mapping out every inch of skin like he was committing it to memory. Like he didn't want to miss a single detail. Clothes disappeared piece by piece, his joggers hitting the floor, my jeans following right after. Each item felt like peeling back another layer, both literally and whatever this thing was between us. There were moments, quiet, ridiculous ones, where we couldn't stop laughing. When I tried to pull his sock off and accidentally yanked the wrong way. When he leaned in to kiss me but bumped his forehead against mine instead. "Smooth," I grinned, breathless. "Shut up," he laughed, pushing me down onto the bed and crawling over me. "Not my fault your head's in the way." But then his hand cupped my face again, and just like that, the laughter melted back into something heavier, something softer. "You're..." Ethan started, but the words trailed off. He shook his head slightly, like he couldn't figure out how to finish the thought. "God, you're..." "Yeah," I whispered, fingers tracing the line of his jaw. "Same." His mouth found mine again, and everything else disappeared. Just heat, skin, the sound of his breathing mixing with mine, the feeling of his hands on me, grounding me, claiming me. It wasn't perfect. A little clumsy, a little too fast, then slowing down, then speeding up again. But it was real. God, it was so real. Every touch felt like something I'd been waiting for without even realizing it. Every glance, every soft breath, every stupid little laugh between kisses. It all felt like something we'd both been orbiting around for way too long without admitting it. And when it finally happened, when the tension broke, when everything that had been simmering between us finally tipped over, it wasn't just hot. It wasn't just physical. It was something else entirely. Something that left me lying there afterward, tangled in his sheets, staring at the ceiling with his arms slung heavy across my chest, thinking, oh, this isn't just a hookup. This is going to change everything. I woke up the next morning to sunlight, slipping between the blinds and the weight of Ethan's arms still draped over my waist. For a moment, I just laid there, staring at the ceiling, trying to process the fact that this wasn't a dream. His breathing was steady, soft. One leg tangled lazily over mine like it belonged there. His face was turned toward me, hair a total mess, lips slightly parted. It hit me then. How peaceful he looked. How comfortable this felt. Strangely easy. I should have felt awkward. I should have been panicking about how weird this might be now, about what this meant for us. But none of that came. Just warmth. this quiet hum in my chest that I hadn't felt in a long time. Ethan stirred a little, squeezing me instinctively, like he didn't even realize he was doing it. His eyes fluttered open, still heavy with sleep. "Morning," he mumbled, voice rough in that stupidly attractive way people sound right after waking up. "Hey," I said softly, smiling before I could stop myself. His lips curved into this lazy grin. "You stayed." "Yeah," I chuckled. Figured it'd be rude to sneak out. He blinked slowly, then leaned in, pressing his forehead to mine. "Good. I didn't want you to go." We laid there in comfortable silence for a bit, just breathing, just existing in this weird little pocket of peace neither of us expected. Eventually, Ethan pulled back slightly and looked at me with this almost shy tilt to his smile. "So, what now?" I let out a breath. I was kind of wondering the same thing. "You, regret any of this?" he asked, his fingers absently tracing a line over my arm. "Not even close," I said. "You?" He shook his head immediately. "No. Not even a little." He bit his lip, hesitating. I wasn't exactly planning for this, but I've kind of wanted it to happen for a while. "Same," I admitted, a little breathless at how easy it was to say that now. Didn't think it would. Figured it was all just in my head. "Dude." Ethan sat up a little, propping himself on one elbow. "You're telling me you didn't notice me absolutely failing to be chill around you every time you came to fix something?" I laughed. "No, I thought you were just friendly." "Oh my God," he groaned, flopping back down with his arm over his face. It was so obvious. "You really weren't," I grinned, nudging him with my shoulder. "I was too busy thinking you were way out of my league." His arm slid off his face so he could look at me, eyebrows raised. "Dude, have you seen you?" My face went warm. "Don't start." He rolled over, wrapping his arms around me again, like that settled the argument. "Guess this makes it official. Maintenance guy and tenant. Totally against the rules, right?" "Probably," I chuckled. "But I think I'm okay with breaking a few." Ethan smiled against my shoulder. "Yeah, me too." We eventually dragged ourselves out of bed, mostly because Ethan's stomach growled so loudly it made both of us laugh. He tossed me a hoodie from his closet, way too big but ridiculously soft, and we padded into the kitchen like this was just something we did, like it was normal. He started making coffee, pulling things out of the fridge for breakfast. "You good with eggs and toast?" he asked over his shoulder. "Perfect," I said, leaning against the counter, watching him move around like he'd done this 100 times before, with me. And honestly, something about that hit harder than anything else last night. Not the flirting, not the kissing, not even the rest. It was this, the quiet, the normal, the way it felt like we just fit. "So," Ethan said after cracking a few eggs, "I guess we should talk about us?" "Yeah," I nodded, fiddling with the hem of the hoodie. "I was thinking about that too." He set the spatula down and turned to face me, leaning back against the counter. His expression was softer now, a little vulnerable. "I know this kinda happened fast, but I don't want it to be just a one-time thing. I like you. A lot. And honestly, I've liked you since day one. I just didn't know if it was, mutual." "Yeah," I nodded quickly. "It is. It really is." His smile was instant, like he'd been holding his breath until now. "Good, because I want to see where this goes. Like, for real." I laughed, shaking my head. "I can't believe this is real. 2 days ago, you were just the hot guy in 504 who needed his washer fixed. And now you're the hot guy who fixed my washer. And my whole life, apparently," he grinned, stepping closer, sliding his hands around my waist like it was the most natural thing in the world. "I can't believe you said that out loud," I laughed, hiding my face against his shoulder. He pressed a kiss to the top of my head. "Get used to it." Breakfast was loud. Dumb jokes. Him throwing bits of toast at me when I tried to mess with the coffee machine. It was easy. Way too easy. Afterward, as we cleaned up, Ethan leaned against the sink, drying a plate. "Hey, you know this means you're gonna have to come over way more often now. Washer or not?" "Oh yeah," I grinned. "And what happens if I find a reason to fix something that's not broken?" He leaned in, brushing his nose against mine. "Then I guess I'll just have to break it on purpose." I laughed so hard I nearly dropped the dish towel. That afternoon, I walked back into my apartment with this stupid grin I couldn't wipe off. My phone buzzed before I even had a chance to sit down. "Ethan, so when are you free again?" I stared at it for a second, heart pounding for all the right reasons. Then I typed back, "Me. Honestly, whenever." And just like that, everything was different. And for the first time in a long time, different felt pretty damn good.